Arsenal fans won't need reminding, it's been another rather underwhelming season for the Gunners. And Julian, there are reports in England that just maybe the Arsenal board have run out of patience, finally, with Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, loads of reports to them in the last couple of days, really. But we were there before. We talked exactly about the same thing a year ago on this show, saying that it can't continue. He has to go in the summer. It was already a bad season for Arsenal, although they won the FA Cup at the end of last season. But we're at the same point, although it looked like the crisis right now is even worse than it was last year or the year before, even the one before that. But he won't resign. He's halfway through the 2-year deal they gave him last summer. He won't go by himself for sure. So then it's up to the club now, Stan Kroenke, Ivan Gazidis, to make that decision of sacking him. I think it's still a very hard decision that they will have to make if they want to do so. But the team is in bad shape.
That's the defining statement, isn't it? He won't walk. There is no chance Arsene Wenger will walk away from this club.
Unlikely.
So the big question is, do you think maybe the board is thinking slightly differently this time?
That's the kind of reports that have been coming out of England today by people that are connected to the club and know what's going on. That if he doesn't get Champions League football next year, and that's going to have to be through the Europa League, then they're going to make a decision, and they're going to make that decision for him, which is all too late. But it's done and dusted now, so they gave him the 2-year deal, as Julian said. They've seen how it's gone, which we pretty much all could have predicted the way it was going to go, because we've been talking about it for years. And I think eventually they're in a position where they're probably going to pull the trigger for him if he doesn't win the Europa League. The
fascinating thing when we sat here exactly this time last year almost, Stevie, and you said as a manager you always think you can get it right, you always believe in yourself. But even experience what he's seen over the last 9 months, he will still have that mentality.
Yeah, absolutely, and unfortunately for Arsenal, but it's a smart move on Wenger's part. He's got himself into a position where, other than the owner, he's pretty much in charge of what happens, you know, what decisions are made. And that's why Arsenal find themselves now in the trouble they are, not just on the field, but off the field, having so much trouble trying to get rid of this guy.
What Arsene Wenger fails to realise is the fact that by his arrogance and by the fact that he's being stubborn, and I'm going to turn it around, and trusting in his ability to turn this around, that it's not going anywhere other than down, is the fact that he himself, by doing this, is hurting what his legacy will be, what he's remembered for. This last few years, yes, they don't match the success of the early years with Arsenal. But what this last few years are going to do is that people are going to pay attention to that. Yeah. They'll forget about the success. They'll forget about the trophies. They'll forget about the wins. And now Arsene Wenger has become this sort of caricature of himself, where just having that sign of Wenger out seems to be a popular thing to do. That's what's happening here. It's no longer about whether he deserves to go or not go. We all know that he shouldn't be there, but now it's just taking a life of its own, and it's all because he continues to perpetrate this idea that he's going to change it around when he's not.
When we've seen maybe cracks appearing this season that we haven't in the past, is things coming out of the dressing room. Maybe training is too hard. He maybe is slowly but surely losing the players, which he never had, always the players that you felt were on board before.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if the players are on board or not, but I mean, there was, again, reports about the training. Wait to hear this one. The training was too hard leading up to the cup final. The training was poor little paupers. The training was too hard. Ian Wright, former Arsenal player, was on BBC Radio yesterday, suggesting that players were pitching up at the training ground at what time they wanted and doing what they wanted. Now, I don't know that, but I'm presuming, bearing in mind he's quite close to it, he's not making that up. And then you had Jack Wilshere after the game, which was an absolute pumping, by the way, talking about Craig Pawson, the official, failing to realise that VAR was operating for the full 90 minutes, and there was another official sat back at base overseeing all the decisions, and in my knowledge, didn't get any of them wrong.
Do you know? It's not only Arsene Wenger that's at Arsenal. You know, when you bring a coaching staff in, you need to have staff that keep the players on their toes, and you need to have somebody upstairs that keeps Wenger on his toes. Yeah. And when that all falls apart, this is what happens. You know, Wenger lets the ball slip with you know, buying and selling players, bringing in the wrong ones, and then the players, it trickles down there. They start coming in late for for training, and nobody seems to say anything. That's not just Arsene Wenger. That's to do with his staff as well.
Let's take a look. Let's just take a look, shall we, at the odds with regarding who could come in as a replacement. If indeed Wenger goes, Carlo Ancelotti, favourite, and then Joaquin Love. You got Leonardo Jardim.
Can you believe Simeone's 12?
Roberto Martinez, Diego Simeone. That success is out of Atleti at 12. Brendan Rodgers also, obviously, at Celtic at the moment at 12. Allegri 14s, Arteta 16s, Vieira at 20, Zidane, and then Thierry Henry. Both at 33-1. I was going to go to Julian, but I want to go to you first, Stevie. Why did you make that noise with Brendan Rodgers?
He did a lot to eat at lunchtime.
Why would Brendan Rodgers be able to take Arsenal anywhere?
He took Liverpool second, didn't he, to be fair?
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Well, it's not. It's better where Arsenal are now.
Well, I think Luis Suarez and Daniel... I think Luis Suarez in particular was a big part of that, I have to be honest.
I don't understand where half of these names are coming from either. I mean, let's be honest. Patrick Vieira, I mean, he's had 3 years in MLS. You know, what does Patrick know about coaching in Champions League or anything like that?
I suppose you could counter-argue that. Pep Guardiola was at Barca B, didn't do that, went to Barcelona.
Well, it's slightly different that he was brought up in the system. He was coaching he had already coached some of the players. He knew exactly what people could and couldn't do. You know, I mean, I guess when you're bringing a new manager in, it takes time to figure that one out anyway. But I just don't see half of those names being capable.
Simeone, obviously, is a standout candidate considering what he's achieved at Atleti. And I suppose two sides. You know, would you want to go to Arsenal if you're him?
Well, it would take a change of philosophy in terms of what Arsenal would be as a team, and the personnel. The player personnel that is currently available at Arsenal does not match Diego Simeone's personality. I'll tell you that much. You imagine Simeone going after Mesut Ozil or Jack Wilshere or this guy or the other guy. Everybody, it would be everybody cleaning house and then starting back over.
I'll take any one of those names.
Which one in particular?
Well, I'll be honest.
Which one stands out?
Well, Simeone.
Yeah.
Kick up the backside.
That's a big boot.
Yeah, Max Allegri, obviously Allegri at Juventus. It's not Ancelotti. I think there's just a merry-go-round there, and I don't see that happening. But I'll be honest, Dan. I don't think I've got another season of Arsene Wenger in me on this show.
I'm sure you have.
I've not got another season of Arsene Wenger bashing on this show. I think we're all bored of it. I really do. I think we're all bored. I think the Arsenal fans must be pulling their hair out. It was great for when it lasted. In fact, it was fantastic. And then it's unravelled, and he should have gone a long time ago, not last year, a long time ago. And now it's just a parody. It's almost a parody.
Isn't it a microcosm of what has happened with Arsene Wenger and Arsenal? His exchange with the fourth official the other day when he was complaining about not having enough time. And I said, well, what do you want more time?
Yeah.
It's over, dude. It's over. It's time to go home.
Julian, taking a look at that list of candidates, for you, who could be the most likely replacement?
I think Jardim is a good shot, although I'm not sure he's ready for that level. He's a builder. That's what he does. You know, he builds teams from young players especially and give them a platform, improves them. So it's a philosophy and it's a system that might not be working or workable at Arsenal, for example. But I agree with Craig. I think Simeone, obviously, a name like Max Allegri. I think Luis Enrique could do a good job there, although he was not in that list that you mentioned. But it's a very attractive club. If you take out what the struggles Wenger had, the stadium, the training grounds, even some of the youth teams as well, they've got potential there. The fans, obviously, the fan base is there. And there's still some good players in that squad. Yes, there's a lot of cleaning to do in that squad and getting rid of a few of them and signing new ones. But I think it's a very attractive club as well.